Alright, we'll do a sort of semi-budgety run here of this. I don't know if I'd call it like a super budget run as far as ingots, but hey, it's what I could pull off. So we'll speed things up too for everybody's sanity, since this is technically 3 battles in 1. And so we'll speed things up and set up our own little background music so we're not stuck with super fast music from the game. So standard opening from Serah, and a little unusual of an opening from 8. From 8 we are going straight into Explosive Fist, his LD, and that is to get the enemies targeting him right away so he gets as many counterattacks in as possible. And combined with the fact that we don't necessarily need to worry about longevity so much with the boss rush. With Serah, we'll follow up with Moonlight to buff and battery everyone. Paladin Cecil started out with his LD to get the extra HP damage out for 8 as soon as possible. And we used, for his free skill, Holy Flame, because might as well. And then we went into his EX. For Serah, we'll do Wound Plus because everybody has the Moonlight buffs now. Our goal for 8 is to get him his EX buff as soon as we can, since he doesn't start with it due to having 0 ingots. If he does have his Evasion EX buff up, by the time the enemy hits 79%, one of the cool things is those debuffs will miss him and he'll get an extra set of counterattacks in. You'll see that happen again when they debuff everybody at 50%. Kind of a neat little trick. That happens with 8. And I am using 8 because I do not have Gladio. He came out at a time when I wasn't playing the game, and so I'm like the one person who doesn't have Gladio. And that's partially why I haven't done any TCC challenges, because or I shouldn't say TCC challenges, that's part of why I haven't done a TCC challenge for this yet. Because A, I don't have Gladio, and B, my 8 is at 0 ingots. I could probably pull off the TCC challenge with 8 instead of Gladio. Or maybe a completely different strategy, I don't know, but I don't think I could do it with 8 at 0 ingots. And that does so little damage when you have Paladin Cecil in your party, it's pretty nice. I mean, 8's still counterattacking for decent amounts, but not Gladio amounts. Moonlight there to help push off some of the debuffs, particularly that Max Brave debuff. Really hurts Serah and Paladin Cecil. And, it took me actually a while to figure out that Serah even triggered this orb. I originally thought this orb required sap damage, but actually poison is able to do it. So that's kind of nice. When I finally figured that out, I realized, oh, I don't have to bring, I don't know, Ultimisia or Shirlota? Yeah. I can bring someone whose name I can pronounce. Serah's Max Brave down is pretty nice for this too, because with the all attack, let's see here, A is actually targeting 8 already, but we'll throw the lock debuff on them again. They go so fast that they run out of those lock debuffs pretty quick. Anyways, where was I? Max Brave down from Serah is also pretty nice from this, because when they do the all attack, see here, you'll notice 8's going to dodge the debuffs from B and get an extra set of counterattacks in just a second. There it is. So that's a neat little trick or whatever feature here for 8. Would probably happen with Galuf too. Anyways, Max Brave down from Serah is pretty nice because when they do their all attack, it's a Brave plus HP attack to everybody, and they batter themselves quite a bit. So it can hurt if you don't set up for it properly, I guess. Let's see, we can Ultima Arrow or we can use Moonlight. I'm going to use Jack's debuff here because now that they're below 50%, pretty soon I'm going to want to use Burst with Paladin Cecil. So that way we can still hit them as hard as we can. But anyways, I'm going to Ultimate Arrow here. It's not going to hit as hard due to Serah having the Max Brave debuff on, but still hits decent. And then I'll Moonlight with her soon. I don't want to go into Paladin Cecil's Burst until at least that Max Brave debuff is gone, or the attack debuff. It's better that way. So a Holy Flame, because everyone already had some decent battery anyways. I'll probably do it again to heal everybody, so that we can get Paladin Cecil's extra Brave and HP damage triggered again, since everyone needs to be at full HP for that. But again, I want to get into his burst phase pretty soon, so that 8 can counter attack harder. Launches are always nice. Serah with an HP attack because her Brave, as far as I can remember, her Brave attack isn't very strong. We're going to Moonlight to knock those debuffs off. Well, Serah and Paladin Cecil, and then we will go into Burst. See, that was a nice counterattack. It's nice when 8 does counter rush before doing break sight blow, because then the splash damage is higher from whatever battery 8 got earlier. And now we will finally burst. Luminous Blast into the launch, which is nice because it'll battery everyone into that launch. Holy Flames, because that's what I'm used to doing in Paladin Cecil's burst. I typically do it because that will buff Paladin Cecil. So, not buff, battery Paladin Cecil himself. So he has a little bit more Brave for his next attack. But Saint's Fall, I believe, does battery Paladin Cecil's allies more so than Holy Flame. Just doesn't battery Paladin Cecil, like, after the attack, only before the attack. Anytime I can use a burst phase that's over 1 million damage, I consider it a good burst phase. We want to kill B before B gets that all attack off. I'm not really worried about A enraging because A has lock on 8 anyways. So we kill B so that all attack doesn't happen. A enrages, but A's gonna die anyways before getting a turn because the enrage seems to knock them back. And now we are fighting the second little robot things. I'm not going to lock them right away due to the fact that they're targeting everyone anyways. Setzer's Call will just make this first attack, which is an extremely powerful attack that only happens once in the round, by the way. At least as far as I've ever come across, only happens once in the round. I'm going to Luminous Blast with Paladin Cecil. Normally I'd want to save that for when the orb comes, but I want to use it when the burst is up as well for that extra damage. So that's why I did that. This first attack is undodgeable, so 8 is actually at risk of dying due to 8's lower actual HP itself. The one attack by itself won't kill 8, but both attacks in a row like that will kill 8. And so we want to make sure that doesn't happen, but Setzer's Call just shuts that down. They will get AoE attacks with the tail laser again later, but they're not as powerful as the initial one. Took me a while to figure that out. I thought, and here would be a good time to Exploding Fist. I don't know, yeah, but I didn't. I guess because one of them is already targeting 8. Now this is a threshold, right? Yep. So there's 2 parts that are a little bit scary in here besides the initial part, of course. This is one of them. When one of them hits 79%, they both battery themselves up to automatically 99,999. And in the past, I've used Odin at about now. Get a nice little instant break sometimes. If not, you get a few extra turns to recover from it. The problem is, with the amount of turns I have remaining for this team, this happens again at the 49% threshold, and I will get them down to 49% with this team before I finish it off. And so I figured at the 79%, they're not quite as strong as they are at 49%. They don't have as much defense, so it's easier to just wear them down at 79%, especially when I still have an Exploding Fist remaining, than it is to wear them down at 49%. So when we get them down to 49%, then I will bring out Odin. These boss rushes can be pretty tricky with the turn count, especially when you're running some non-optimized run for whatever reason, whether it's a DCC challenge or budgets run, or I don't even know if this qualifies as budget, a not full Ingot run. I guess budget enough. Now we'll use our last Luminous Shard. Still doing pretty darn good damage with it. And I don't know if this is a bug or not, but as you noticed, the orb only went up by 5 ticks, despite the fact that it heals the entire party. So, unless I'm missing something, I think that might be a bug. You'll see later that I'll be able to, with my next team, I'll be able to up the orbs by 15 when I heal the entire party, which should be what happens, as far as I know, when I use Luminous Shard, but it didn't. And that only seems to be the case when you carry your team over from the first wave. When you go into your second team, that no longer seems to be the case. Alright, so it looks like we're going to go into Odin before hitting 49%, but that's okay. It will still give me a chance to recover from the super high bravery that they're going to get, and not be killed by it. Although I think they target 8 anyways. We'll find out in a second. That's some good damage there. Yeah, so here's something kind of funny. This time, they're not doing an all target. They're only targeting 8. And so it wouldn't matter if I was in summon here, because they would just attack 8 and miss anyways and get counterattacked. Dude, got a link for a text message. Anyways. We're using Saint's Dive to battery our allies a little better. And Paradigm Shift combo, because we might as well just hit them with our strongest attacks at this point. And this is the final turn. Would have been nice to get some of those dodge encounters in with 8, but is what it is. And time for my next party here. I wasn't originally going to bring Yshtola because I did not have Yshtola's LD. But long story short, to keep this long story short, I ended up going back for Yshtola's LD because I figured, what the heck? I'm maxed out on tickets, and I pulled it in like 30 tickets or whatever the number is, so I think I might still be maxed out on tickets, but my ticket luck has been up recently. So I've been using tickets, and hopefully that will continue into Terra's banner as it comes up. I was considering pulling Waka with tickets because Waka's debuff seems really, really nice. But and again, my ticket luck has been up recently, so I figured I'd use those tickets before ticket luck runs out and I have to use gems or skip or whatever. But and eventually I wanted Yshtola when after she gets that rework for the Burst Plus era, which actually would have been a decent banner to pull Yshtola back on when Yshtola comes back out, because that would have also had Renoa, and I do not have Renoa's LD. But we'll see. I didn't pull Yshtola's Burst, so I'll figure out something. Not worried about it right now. But yeah, having Yshtola here gave me a lot more options to control this orb, because I don't have a lot of options for it. And of course, the synergy bonus goes to everybody now. So this is not a non-synergy, non-burst run or anything like that. This is a watch Strago hit them very hard run. I was kind of debating between Strago and Ultimisia for a little while for this run, but Ultimisia's issue is she gets a lot of free turns, which doesn't really mean anything in boss rush. It's good for normal battles, whereas Strago can consistently hit over 99,999 due to getting double attacks. So Strago's great to bring, especially with Hope, of course. I was semi-considering bringing Yshtola to this, instead of Yshtola, before I pulled the Yshtola's LD, due to the fact that Yshtola would increase Strago's damage, and yeah, that's mostly it, and of course gives synergy bonus, but I was worried about the orb, and I wasn't sure, like, how many turns it was going to take. I mean, I might have been able to do it. Yeah, I would have had to have definitely used Ramuh. See, look at that, much more manageable attacks than the initial attack. Not really going to need Setzer's call for this. That's the tricky part about waves, about a lot of these waves, is they get really, really strong towards the end as far as defense, and so you have to figure out good ways to hit them hard, or you run through all your turns too quickly. So everybody was low on Brave. I figured I'd have Hope at Battery everyone. I don't think these guys enrage, but I do want to kill him before that orb goes off, and I want to kill one at a time before Strago's turn that he just took, because having multiple enemies makes Strago hit a lot harder. And then a Stone Plus to finish them off. I couldn't be 100% sure that HP Plus was going to Battery enough to do it, so I used Stone. We're going to Stone here in the beginning. See, now that they don't have that massive defense down, Strago's going to hit nice and hard. So we're going to throw Jack's debuff on them right away, because I expect to take these guys pretty low before the third team comes out. And what's kind of cool about this team, we're going to freeze Joker here in the beginning. Any time now? Oh, nope, we're not. Okay, I see what I'm doing. This will re-break them, and then we're going to Grand Delta here. With massive amounts of damage. Watch this. That's why Strago's amazing for boss rush. But anyways, we're going to use Setzer's call here, because the first attack that these dragons do, we're going to use it one of these days, is going to go right into our turn again. The first attack that these guys do is a pretty strong Brave and HP attack, and so if it breaks, or even if it doesn't break, it's still going to hit pretty hard. So now that this team has taken that, and taken it well, my next team won't have to worry about that. The AI picks up from where I left off. Getting kind of low turns, but we still do have Ramuh. I wanted to make sure that Hope extended Strago's, what was it called? Soul of Thamasa buff. That's typically good to do for Strago's longevity, although I don't really have to worry about longevity here. That's why I'm going to leave... anyways, don't really have to worry about longevity here, because it's boss rush. It's always nice to use Hope's Last Resort in summon like that. Now they're below 50% HP. Might as well use Stone Plus here to keep knocking them back. They're basically not going to get a turn off, is what I'm hoping for, between Grand Delta Time for some big damage again. Oh, maybe not quite as big as before, but... Oh, no, still 200,000 damage, cheapers. And 2 knockbacks, by the way, because technically Grand Delta not only re-breaks them or unbreaks them, but it instant breaks them no matter how much brave they have. It's a very unique ability in that it does that. Not going to use Yshtola's EX anymore because I'm running out of turns, obviously, and so we just need efficiency at this point, or as much damage as much damage as we can at this point. That's also why I used a second Grand Delta with Strago instead of going into a free Quasar. This is a little unfortunate that Yshtola jumped in at the last second, but oh well. Auto Grand Deltas, so we will Quasar. And those dragons didn't get any, they only got their first turn. And for the third team, this is basically it. We have to hit them hard. Very hard. Which doesn't quite happen in the beginning. So with Onion Knight here, I'm half tempted to burst right now, due to the fact, kind of like how I did with Paladin Cecil at the end of the first wave, due to the fact that we're just not hitting very hard here. But I don't want to do it before we're properly set up. Like, I have considered throwing Jack. Oh, I do. Alright, so I throw Jack's debuff on here, which may or may not have been a waste, I don't know. I'm going with probably not. We want the Seal Evil buff on Aerith to drop their defense by 60%. Like an aura. And then Trey can throw one more buff on them to increase brave damage, but at this point I'm like, we're already going to be hitting pretty hard. I don't want to give them turns if I don't have to. Their next... we're not hitting that hard. But the next attack that the dragons do is going to be a regular brave attack, and then after that it'll be another brave and HP attack that hits really hard, so I don't want to give them more turns if I don't have to. Also, I don't want to kill both of them during the burst phase, because I don't believe that we move on to the next wave if still in the burst phase. So I want to make sure that the burst phase is done before we kill them, so I don't want to linger it too long. We're going with ninjutsu, so that way Trey's damage can be increased as opposed to the magic one, which would increase Aerith's brave damage, but yeah, it's way more important to increase Trey's brave damage. And then there's Firewall, which I don't even know if it's going to go off, but at least it's going to increase the brave damage. For Onion Knight, we're going back into his magic stance to keep his speed down. I could have possibly Sealed Evil there to hit them both, but oh well. So yeah, with Onion Knight we have the physical burst phase, so he ups everybody, both physical and magical. He ups everybody both physical and magical, but he ups physical even more. But I'm keeping him in his magic stance to keep his speed down, so he keeps the burst phase up for as long as possible. Although, we should be hitting really, really hard anyways, due to the fact that their HP hasn't been taken down yet. Luckily, this third wave doesn't have a lot of HP. So, they're usually the not too much to worry about here. If you set the team up right, I suppose. Trey is amazing for this stage because their biggest threat is when they give themselves those spines or whatever. That's such good damage from Trey. I have high armor for Trey. It's not, I don't know if it's needed per se. Is it a good idea? Probably. I mean, on one hand, Trey gets a lot of hits. On the other hand, he's not always hitting for maximum damage, but just due to the fact that he gets a lot of hits, a lot of brave hits in, kind of like Emperor does, it's probably worth it to give Trey his high armor, which is attack. I mean, I kind of wish Trey's high armor was something else, like that would increased allies hits a little more. I hadn't originally considered Trey as my main DPS in previous runs. I just considered him as kind of a secondary, brings a couple of buffs to up everybody's brave damage. And then like the main damagers would be more like Strago or Eldnarsh, guys like that. But even Eldnarsh is kind of a secondary in a lot of ways, I feel like, for damage. Blade Beam to knock them back while we still have the burst buff up to do as much damage as possible, because why the heck not? When else am I going to use that thing? Same with the finishing touch. And then I pulled out Shiva due to the fact that they're weak to ice, and I didn't want to waste the last turn of Onion Knight's burst phase enchanting the party with ice. So that's why I pulled out Shiva here. So these are the spines that I was talking about that are probably the most worrying part of the whole fight. I think Seal Evil ran off earlier and I forgot to mention it. But yeah. So as you can see, Ice Enchant is doing its thing because these guys are extremely melee resistant. And now they're below 50%, and so they're gonna do a lot of stuff. And then this happened, which was a little awkward. Apparently the Ice Enchant isn't counting right now or something, or they're not weak to it, I don't know. But yeah, that was a little awkward. But yeah, they had those spines. That's easily the most worrisome part, or whatever, of this whole battle. The most dangerous part is those spines, and obviously Trey deals with them very nicely, but if you're not using Trey, it's good to have someone to deal with those things. Their turns are so far back now. Yeah, Aerith has a debuff on, so Seal Evil wore off for a little bit. I hate when I do that. I'm so focused on doing other things and then Seal Evil wears off. Get that Ice Enchant back on everyone. You could kind of tell Trey was not hitting very hard with it without it. So I'm using Grand Delta over something like Firewall because I don't believe Firewall is going to get its full use. We use multi-hit with Onion Knight to get those buffs back up on him, the attack and max brave buffs, I believe. Something like that. Anyways, for Trey, I use Grand Delta over the LD because I feel like Firewall doesn't get its full potential if you overwrite the buffs with it too much. The debuffs that it provides early, if you overwrite the debuffs early before they run out. And I feel like Firewall doesn't get its full potential in Brave it's in. This is a much nicer setup. We have Rain of Arrows going to just instantly break those scale things every turn. Actually, anybody taking Trey to multiplayer, keep in mind that Rain of Arrows will stack between multiple Treys, but Dynamite Shot does not. So if Dynamite Shot is already beginning to count down from a different Trey, then casting Dynamite Shot before it goes off will actually reset it back up to 2. But that's not the case with Rain of Arrows, nothing to worry about there. Or Raining Arrows? Yeah. We used Firewall because nothing else was at charge 2, and Grand Delta was not up. Keep the Ice Enchant going. Onion Knight doing big damage. Big boy damage. Raining Arrows. I used to call it Rain of Arrows. We're getting low on turns though, so I'm a little nervous at this point, so using all the LDs here to get all that damage out. Another Sword and Sorcery for that same reason. Usually I'll pull Aerith in before Trey, so that Aerith can battery Trey a bit. Especially if Raining Arrows is up. And now we're good. I'll slow it down here at this part. so I don't flash through the menus too quickly here. So that was 3 teams. And I think I forgot how to get to the party screen properly for a second. So here's team 1, team 2, team 3. Oh, I got some artifacts to work on team 2 there. See if it's a big enough deal for me to care about to go through all that farming. Here's everybody. I hate farming in all games, which is partially why I only have 1 double cursed artifact for Serah. Like, I've been trying for it. I use those triple books and everything. There's 2 ingots on Aerith, 0 ingots on Strago, and then 0 ingots on 8. Thank you everyone for watching.